Hey, it's Adam Grant from Work Life, a podcast from TED. This episode is brought to you by Freshworks. Freshworks believes that complexity is the enemy of efficiency. So stop wrestling with bloated, expensive service software that takes forever to implement an update, where ROI is someday, not today. You've been overcharged and underserved for way too long. Uncomplicate with Freshservice for IT and Freshdesk for customer support. And with Freshworks AI-assisted service software, you'll work smarter, not harder. Freshworks uncomplicates. Learn more at freshworks.com.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7.
I'm Ciara Evans in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we hear about a landmark climate change judgment, meet a girl with bionic arms, and get good news on Danish storks. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7's resident tech guru, does a deep dive into the AI wars and has some suggestions for a new OpenAI movie that's on the way. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started, though, it was on this day in 1949 that the British-made de Havilland Comet, the world's first jet-propelled airplane, made its maiden flight in England. The Comet's jet engine technology was developed during World War II and was seen as a revolution in air travel. This week saw a significant moment in the battle over climate change as the International Court of Justice ruled that countries must prevent harm to the climate system and that if they fail to do so, they could have to pay compensation. The judgment is 133 pages long and was presented on Wednesday by the President on the Court, Yuji Iwasawa, at The Hague.
Climate change poses a quintessentially universal risk to all states. This risk is of a general and urgent character, requiring the identification of a corresponding general standard of conduct to be applied subject to the principle of common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities.
The court said that a clean, healthy and sustainable environment was a precondition for exercising many human rights, and it targeted in particular countries who have refused to sign climate treaties or, like the US, have withdrawn from them. The UN asked the ICJ to take the case back in 2023 after protests from climate activists and countries like the Solomon Islands, who are said to experience the worst impact from climate change and rising ocean levels. Ralph Regenvanu is the climate minister for the Pacific state of Vanuatu, and he welcomed the decision.
Today's ruling, I'm sure, will also inspire new cases where victims around the world in a legal sense realise that they can claim their rights and seek accountability.
The judgment is non-binding, but it could have a significant effect on future cases. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has been vocal in his warnings about climate change, memorably pronouncing that humanity has opened the gates of hell back in 2023. But this week he was taking a more positive tone. A report this week from the International Renewable Energy Agency highlighted that 9 in 10 renewable projects are now producing energy that is cheaper than fossil fuels. Guterres says the sun is rising on a new renewable energy era and that those who stick with fossil fuels will miss out.
Countries that cling to fossil fuels are not protecting their economies, they are sabotaging them, driving up costs, undermining competitiveness, locking in stranded assets, and missing the greatest economic opportunity of the 21st century.
He was also keen to point out that in the current global economic climate, where Russia continues its war with Ukraine and Europe faces another winter with high energy costs, renewable energy offers greater security of supply.
Renewables are here to stay because they are the foundation of energy security and sovereignty. Let's be clear, the greatest threat to energy security today is in fossil fuels. They leave economies and people at the mercy of price shocks, supply disruptions, and geopolitical turmoil.
The world seems pretty obsessed with AI right now, and this week saw a serious escalation of what is turning into some kind of AI arms race between countries. When it comes to matters of AI, there's only one man we can trust to cut through the hallucinations and count the fingers correctly, and that's the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. So, Will, has the world gone AI mad?
It does seem that way based on the amount of time I've spent talking about AI-related stories this week. There's been another massive global spurt of activity. Last week we heard the news that the government had done a deal to get Google to train civil servants and bring AI tools into the fabric of public services. They weren't charging the government, and there was much concern over important data leaving the UK and our government getting hooked on AI tools that companies eventually want loads of money for. And of course there's also the concern about jobs being lost in this ruthless race for perceived efficiency.
The UK seems to be charging ahead and giving all kinds of access to our data to AI owners, with OpenAI the latest to join the party. Is this good news?
So this week, the government announced a deal with OpenAI, the folks behind the current market leader ChatGPT. Now, it was light on detail, like value, and just what OpenAI was going to be able to do with all the incredibly valuable data the government and its many departments have. But the press release said AI models would be set upon many government departments aimed at solving the country's biggest problems, which sounds like the red carpet has been rolled out for data and the guardrails have been taken off. On the other hand though, it is kind of natural our government would want to look into these AI tools, because regardless of whether you're on the hype train or not, they are already changing lives. And I'm not entirely sure yet whether it's for better or worse.
America is keen to win this AI race too, right? What was Donald Trump up to this week?
As you would expect, Trump confidently declared the US is going to win as it unveiled an action plan. This is designed to speed up the building of data centers which use loads of energy but run AI products, and to do this, environmental laws have been loosened across the US, at the same time as taking the brakes off restrictions to sell US created AI tech overseas. Trump keeps saying he's promising to remove unnecessary red tape. There are almost 100 recommendations in this plan as the US tries to stay ahead of China, as both countries park actual bazillions in cash into AI so they can keep their armies and economies ahead. This is literally another arms race, but this time with artificial intelligence.
He's got a few special demands as well, doesn't he? No woke AI.
Despite the president and Elon Musk's relationship still seemingly being on the skids, the idea that an AI large language model can be woke remains embedded in Trump's brain, to the ridiculous extreme that he's actually enacted a US government order, and I 100% promise this is real. It's called the Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government Order, and states that the government should not procure AI models that sacrifice truthfulness and accuracy to ideological agendas. It even goes one step further by suggesting that DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, is one of the most pervasive and destructive ideologies that must be kept out of US government AI models by law. Good God alive.
And he featured in South Park this week thanks to AI. Can you politely describe what they did to him?
He really did, and I actually got my real AI butler Bert to ask Elon Musk's grok, and this is what it said about the latest episode.
Oh, they went all out. Posts on X say the latest South Park episode roasted President Trump hard, tying him to the Epstein files and even showing him in bed with Satan. They also portrayed him as a psychotic transsexual making wild threats about immigrants. It's classic South Park, over the top and merciless.
Cheers, Bert.
And no surprise, as AI is everywhere, that someone is making a movie about it, specifically the OpenAI ChatGPT story, and they've already signed up Andrew Garfield.
In what feels like a bit of nailed-on casting, Ike Barinholtz, who played Seth Rogen's drug-addled and obnoxious colleague Sal in Apple TV's The Studio, will play Elon Musk in the movie made by in-demand director Luca Guadagnino called Artificial. Rumours suggest the film will predominantly focus on the 72 hours of behind-the-scenes drama when Altman was fired and rehired as boss in November 2024, which I would suggest would make Elon's involvement pretty minor in the film. I love the Facebook movie The Social Network, so anything that lifts the lid on US tech companies is surely a winner for me.
Should we let ChatGPT write it itself?
I bet somebody already pitched that idea over at Amazon, and the reality is AI is already creating movies, both scripts and even generating scenes themselves. Just this week, the boss of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, admitted the company had used AI to generate special effects in a new Argentinian sci-fi show to save money. A sequence of a skyscraper falling was made by an off-the-shelf AI tool instead of spending money on getting actual humans to make it. He also predicted it won't be long until entirely AI-generated movies start appearing on Netflix. I can guarantee it, Adam Sandler will soon be in 20 films a day. Stop the world, I need to get off.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, in association with Metro, we meet a girl with bionic hands and find out more about the UK's new nuclear power station. Tilly Lockey is a remarkable young woman. She's an influencer and a disability activist, and she also happens to be the owner of 2 very cool bionic hands. She contracted meningococcal septicemia at an early age and had to have a double amputation to save her life, but she hasn't let that hold her back and has been working with an innovative company called Open Bionics for the last 10 years. Open Bionics is a British tech startup who specialise in next-generation bionic tools, including their newest version, which is a bionic hand that is fully wireless and can move on its own. The new generation of devices have taken 4 years to develop, but unlike traditional prosthetics, they don't require surgically implanted chips. Instead, they use wireless sensors that pick up muscle signals from the skin. She popped up on Good Morning Britain to explain how the hands work and what a difference they've made to her life.
There is that little extra thought process because they are muscle operated. I think that's a big misconception, is like I just think and it comes to reality. Right. So there is that like thought to muscle, like sort of connection. Squeeze the clothes, flex it open. I'm conscious of where I'm at in the grip mode cycle as well. And obviously over time, just going to get more and more advanced. I talk about all the mental benefits, and like it's so important that they're accessible to more and more people as well. I, for one, have like experienced that firsthand, where like they've just opened so many doors for me, like physically and mentally as well. And now the goal is just to make sure as many people can get them as possible.
This week saw Energy Secretary Ed Miliband sign off on one of the biggest pieces of energy infrastructure in the UK, which will see a brand new nuclear power plant built on the east coast. The Sizewell C plant is due to cost over £40 billion and will produce enough energy to power 6 million homes, but it's not due to be completed until sometime in the 2030s. The project was first floated back in 2010, but nuclear power has been a difficult topic from a political point of view. However, countries such as France, who have long had nuclear programs, are reaping the benefits as power-hungry AI data centres choose to locate there. Energy Minister Michael Shanks told Channel 4 News that the time is right for an investment in clean power.
The reason it's such an important project is it will deliver clean power for more than 6 million homes for decades, but it's an important economic story as well, with 10,000 jobs and 1,500 apprenticeships across the country, really benefiting communities right across the UK. What's also built into the funding model, and what's really important to say, is that there will be incentives to those investors if the project is delivered faster, but the other flip side of that is there will be penalties to those investors if we don't meet those deadlines. The truth is we need a balance. We need a mixed energy system. Nuclear provides that stable baseload that we can rely on for decades to come, but it needs to be joined with, and we're absolutely ambitious for this, offshore wind, floating offshore wind, onshore wind, solar, a whole range of technologies that will help us get to power the power system that we need for the future, but it has to be a balance, and we think nuclear plays a really important part in that.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, in association with Metro, we get ready for Shark Week and meet some Danish storks.
Right after this.
Out here, it's not only the amazing views, but the way time stretches out a little longer and how the breeze hits just right at the summit. With All Trails, you can discover nature's best with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today.
Welcome back.
This week has seen the Discovery Channel dive back into one of its most famous features, Shark Week. It featured a slightly odd crossover show called Dancing with Sharks and a whole host of up-close documentaries about monster sharks and their mysterious ways. DeGedler is a shark conservation activist who has been a victim of a shark attack. In fact, he lost his hand and leg to a shark back in 2009, but he remains undeterred, so he was one of the hosts of this year's Shark Week, and he hosted a show that certainly tapped into his own experience called How to Survive a Shark Attack.
If we're going to do it, we want to do it for real. I like to show people by actions. When I was in school,
I didn't do that well because I was sitting in class listening and writing, but in the military I did really well because they train you by doing. So I want to show people by doing for those that might not want to sit down and read a scientific study. They get to watch, they get to see what happens when a shark bites someone. What do I do if someone next to me gets attacked by a shark? What do I do if I get attacked by a shark? Let's show them exactly what to do. We've got professional medics on the scene, we've got professional shark divers and shark feeders with me underwater. So this is about as controlled an environment as you're going to get.
Kinga Philipps is a travel journalist and a long-time shark enthusiast, and she explained a bit more about how the show Dancing with Sharks actually works.
It is actually some of the world's best shark handlers and their partners, which are great hammerheads, tiger sharks, nurse sharks, and these sharks are coming in and they're actually dancing with our participants. Shark Week has been around for 37 years because people are absolutely intrigued and fascinated about sharks, and because at the end of the day we are still constantly uncovering more science data information about these animals.
The government has been dealing with a number of historical scandals recently, from the infected blood scandal through to the Post Office Horizon inquiry. But this week has brought to light two more potential issues. The first is an issue affecting mothers who were given a drug called stilbestrol, or DES, which was prescribed until the 1970s as a synthetic form of estrogen to help prevent miscarriages. Research, however, has shown that the drug is potentially carcinogenic and that it has affected not just the mothers who received it, but also their children. ITV News investigated this week and spoke to Jessica Toale, an MP who is part of a cross-party group calling on Health Secretary Wes Streeting to take action on behalf of those exposed.
I'm really concerned about the effects of the DES drug being passed through generations, and we've got the evidence that it has. Unfortunately, a lot of women who have been affected with it are getting on in life. They're getting older. A lot of people don't know that they have been impacted by the drug, and so that's why what we're calling for in the letter to the Health Secretary is, one, a recognition that this has happened to people and a formal apology to those women it has affected. Two, greater protection for people who may be affected by it, and that means advanced and enhanced screening for things like cervical cancers or breast cancers. And finally, awareness.
This week also saw the Ministry of Defence admit thousands of British military personnel and veterans could be suffering from brain damage after exposure to blasts from the British Army's own weapons. The condition is known as MTBI, or mild traumatic brain injury, and it means that repeated exposure to blasts like artillery firing can cause concussions or injure the brain and cause lifelong health conditions. Explosions from weapons like mortars or shoulder-launched anti-tank weapons create what's called overpressure, which can create a force strong enough to penetrate the skull and damage blood vessels and neurons in the brain. Professor Karen Millinger is an expert in neuroimaging at the University of Nottingham, and as part of a new study, she's scanning the brains of veterans with a system called OPM-MEG.
Ideally, we'd be able to see the structure at the level that we need to, but we can't. Looking at the function, it's like looking at the lights that are turning on in your house. If there's a fuse gone or the wire's broken somewhere, then those lights aren't going to turn on, are they? In the same way, if the wire paths have been damaged by blast, then the function is going to change.
The stork is famous largely for its appearances as sort of maternity courier, but in reality the species, and in particular the white stork, has been under pressure for a number of years. The white stork was on the verge of extinction, but concentrated conservation efforts in the UK and Denmark appear to be paying off. Unusually, climate change has actually made life easier for the white stork, who now migrate for the winter to Spain instead of South Africa or Argentina, which is made for less hazardous long trips. Observers in Denmark are also reporting a surge in nestlings, the highest in decades, and Hans Go, a board member of the organisation Stork Denmark, is one of those who've been working to bring a species that briefly became locally extinct.
This year is something really special because we have 13 pairs with 33 nestlings, and that's the highest number since 86. When new pairs appear, we know how to offer them food when there is a crisis in the nature. And then they will manage to keep their nestlings alive. And if they get nestlings on the wings, they will come back next year. If the nestlings died, then they would not come back.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Quince believes that quality products shouldn't be a luxury, whether it's a breathable 100% European linen shirt or effortless stretch cotton pants. All of their high-end, top-quality pieces are about half the cost of similar brands. Yes, really. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. Get the high-end goods you deserve at quince.com/upgrade for free shipping and 365-day returns.